if I had to guess, I would say that this is going to be the shortest video from this unit. There's only 3 slides, so we'll get through it as quickly as we can. What we're doing is we want to make sure that we understand that fractions, decimals, and percents all represent the same number. And all we're doing is working between those 3 numbers. So when we want to know what the decimal is for this fraction, what we can do is we could type it into a calculator, or if your math teacher is a big jerk, you have to do this through long division. We're going to be doing this through long division. So we have a 4 here, and we're going to divide by 8. Now, because this is a decimal, we're going to have to obviously add zeros because 8 can't go into 4. So I'm going to add in a 0 here. And now I have the decimal point goes right here. And then I go 40 divided by 8, which gives me 0.5. Now, if I wanted to continue, I could add in another 0 here. And I could continue this process on, but I'm going to get a 0, and so it'll keep going like that. So, since I did that number, I found out that the decimal point that represents 4 divided by 8 is 0.5. Now, many of you are going to say, well, I already knew that. I knew that 4/8 is the same as 1/2, and so can I just write the decimal down? Absolutely. I have no problem with that. You can take whatever shortcuts you feel like are acceptable to you, but no calculators. So since I know my decimal is 0.5, we know that between a decimal and a percent, we have to either multiply by 100, or we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right and get 50 or 50%. So that would be the first problem, all done. Now, if we start with the decimal and we want to go backwards to the fraction, we should know that you would say this decimal as 45 hundredths. And so if you simply take 45 hundredths, you're going to go 45 over 100. The other way to think of it, as if you're making this a fraction, the number of decimal places, that would be 2, are the number of zeros that you have near your problem. I still recommend just saying the number out loud to yourself. It'll usually tell you how many zeros you need. But we want to simplify this fraction all the way down. And so we can divide the top and the bottom by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And that's fully simplified. So 0.45 is the same as 9/20. If we want to go to the percent, just like before, we're going to move the decimal place 2 to the right and get 45%. Now, for the last one, we started with 78%. We want to turn that to a decimal first. Move the decimal point 2 to the left. We get 0.78 or 78 hundredths. So we turn that into a fraction. And many of you will know that in a situation like this, I just like to divide by 2, because that's the easiest way. 78 divided by 2, that's going to be 39. 100 divided by 2 is 50. And that is fully simplified because 39 is prime. So that is what you're expected to be able to do in this section. Now, I'm going to show you some more complicated examples to show you how to solve these. So, for the top one, 1.46. The problem here is that our decimal is above 1. So our percentage is going to have to be above 100%. I still move the decimal 2 to the right, and I get 146%. Okay? Fractions, though, the process will be the same. There's 2 ways you could write this. You could write this as 1 and 46 100ths, or you could write this as 146 over 100. Both are acceptable. You would then simplify either, or this would be 73 over 50. Either one's totally fine. Personally, I like that one right there. Usually I try to avoid mixed numbers, but that's just the math teacher part of me. Whatever you feel like is most comfortable, as long as you can move easily between those two forms, you should be just fine. Now, for the 252%, we have to move that back to a decimal point. So that becomes 2.52, like that. And then to make that into a fraction, that's going to be 252 over 100, or 252 over 100. Simplifying here, we get 226 over 50, which can simplify again into 213 over 25. This one simplifies down into 63 over 25. And I just shortcutted that one a little bit to save some time. Now, 7/8, we're going to have to do the long division method here. Now, I'm going to erase this portion just so I have a little bit more room to do the long division. Now, we have to go 7 divided by 8 here and add in the 0 like we needed to before. Now, I'm going to go 8. 8 times 8 is 64, and 8 times 9 is 72. So we got to put 0.8 here. So that becomes 64. This becomes 6, and we're going to add another 0. 8 times 7 is 56. And this becomes a 4, and we're going to add another 0. And then this becomes 4, so 32. And then we could add another 0 and keep going. Now, the answer for how long should you go until you're done is whatever the directions tell you to do should be the number of decimal places. I personally, though, if there is no direction, will stop at 2 decimal places. So this will be 0.87 and then 87%, making sure that I rounded correctly. Okay, that's about as tough as these can get. So I want you to try these on your own, and then I will put the answers for you. So for this one, I will get, the decimal point will be negative 0.67, rounding to 2 decimal places, and this will be negative 67%. For this one here, this is 55.5%, and 555 divided by 1,000. If I divide that by 5, I get 111 over 200. And for the bottom one, I'm going to go 0.232, and I get 232 over 100. I'm going to divide this top by 2, and so that becomes 116 over 50. I'm going to divide by 2 again, and so that becomes 58 over 25. Or 2 8/25. Okay, if you have questions on those, please let me know.